connection.
What's up, Savvy Expats? Welcome to the new podcast studio setup. None of this would have been possible without Manila Connection, so I'll leave all of their social media and the links down below. And without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce our new guests and longtime viewers of the channel, Kevin and Pamela. It's a pleasure to have you both on.
Thanks for having us on, Evan.
Of course, Kevin. So let's just get straight into the meat and beans. Can you introduce yourself and get into both of your lives? What led up to being in the Philippines?
Sure. My name's Kevin. This is my wife, Pamela, and we had previously been living in Western New York, and we decided to move here to the Philippines, into Manila, just almost 2 months ago.
2 months ago?
Well, actually, like August 16th is when we arrived here, so we haven't been here that long.
Okay, so you haven't been here that long whatsoever, but what was your life, previously like before moving to the Philippines?
I was in the military, and then I retired from the military in 2018. And me and my wife, Melo, we had been married since 2015. We were living originally in Virginia. And then after I retired from the military, we moved to Western New York, where my family's from.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then I went to college there, then I went to graduate school. And then during that time period, Famela got very homesick and missed her family back here in the Philippines. So she brought it up to me that maybe we should move back to the Philippines, and that's what we did. We decided to come back here.
Awesome. So we got a brief idea of what your life was like, moving and leading up to moving to the Philippines. But I want to get a more clear idea and picture of how you two met. Can you dive a little bit deeper into your story and what your, love story was coming here?
So we had a friend in common that I had met while I was in the military, and I came to visit her in Masbate City,
down south
in Visayas, and it's actually Bicol region is what.
Yeah.
And they went to the same college together.
Okay.
And they had an event.
We have like a acquaintance party going on in the resort.
Okay.
And then
He was there.
and I was there, and that's how I met her. And then we just kept in contact for a few years, and then that's how we met.
All right. So you met through mutual friends, and what year was
Yes.
this? Did you say?
2012.
2012, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
it's
2012.
2012.
And then we eventually got married in 2015.
Okay.
And
So
And when we got married, I applied for a fiancé visa.
Fancy visa.
right.
And she came to Virginia, and we got married in Virginia.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, Kevin, when because you said you were in the military, right? And we spoke about it a little bit earlier. You've been to multiple countries before actually ending up in the Philippines, because you were in the military since when? 19, right?
So I joined when I was 18.
When you were 18.
Yeah.
And which countries have you been to previously before the Philippines?
The first country I went to was Japan, Yokosuka, Japan,
Okay.
for 3 years. And then after Yokosuka, I went to Naples, Italy, for 2 years. And then after Naples, I went to Virginia. And I stayed in Virginia for most of the time. I mean, not counting deployments, but just where I was actually living. Was in Norfolk, Virginia, or Virginia Beach, Virginia. With the exception of 1 year, I lived in Bahrain. And then my final year, I actually lived in Korea.
In Korea.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just thinking about, you're a young guy, you're a young man, right? And obviously, as a young man, you have a lot of tendencies to want to date if you're in all these different countries. What made you specifically choose to want to date and eventually marry a Filipino wife?
I don't know. It wasn't like a conscious decision.
Oh,
it was, just her. I met
just
her,
family,
and then and then
Yeah.
I fell in love with her, and
Right. Okay. So very
she was put
organic.
up with me, so we got married.
Very organic, because when you think about typical, Filipino expat channels, it's like, I have to move to the Philippines, I have to marry, a traditional Filipino wife, right? But for you, it's organic, and it just led to
No, it
family.
wasn't.
Yeah. Okay, and so I want to understand a little bit more for you, Pamela. When you first met Kevin, what was going through your mind? What were your thoughts? Because he's a foreigner in Masbate.
I didn't know. Well, when I see him there, okay.
Just okay,
No,
just
no,
Kevin.
No, I met you with my friends. Just okay, hi, okay. Then just introduce us and then keep talking. And then after that, he contacted me via Facebook, and then kept talking, and then after that,
and then bam, applied for the marriage visa.
Yeah.
Oh, I came back to
We
visit.
came back to visit
Visit,
again, and
yeah,
then
I
that's
see.
we decided that why didn't you come to US? And
Oh,
then, okay.
Yeah. So how long were you guys like talking before you eventually invited to go to the U.S. with you?
It's like 2 years.
Yeah, probably 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. It's actually quick when he applied for visa, like 3 months, and then I got my visa and go flow to.
I was so excited for her to come to the
US.
United States. I made sure that I had all the paperwork
Right.
That was so quick though. Like,
done.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah, it didn't take that long. It wasn't that difficult.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, it was
So
easier than I thought.
you were excited to bring her to the United States.
Yeah.
You guys stayed there for 9 years between Virginia, correct?
Virginia
Yeah.
and New York. Right?
Yeah, Western New York, near
Western.
suburbs of Buffalo.
In Buffalo,
yeah.
okay. But then fast forward 9 years, then Pamela was the one who was like, let's go back to the Philippines.
Yep. Yeah, just missing family. And,
Yeah, like it's been a long time, like 9 years. Like I want to go back to my family.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, there's certain things about the United States that I actually hate driving.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
where I lived, I had to have to drive everywhere
Oh,
all
for
the
sure.
time.
Yes.
So it wasn't too difficult to, I was enthusiastic about coming here just for one thing, I don't have to drive anymore.
Right. Right.
I-
And actually,
And her
Kevin-
too, and she doesn't like.
I see. Yeah. Can we actually dig deeper into like that topic? Because you're talking about like things that you don't like living in the U.S. Versus living in the Philippines. Like, what other things would you say you experience here in the Philippines that you don't really have to deal with in the U.S. anymore?
So for sure, the divisiveness in the United States right now is
Yeah.
like over the top. I can't
That's for
stand
sure.
it. It drives me nuts. I don't like to
Yeah.
think about it. And I like being here and not having to think about it, or
Absolutely.
not have to.
Yeah.
It's just not something that's on my mind anymore.
Right.
So
right.
I like that. Other undesirable things. I mean, having to drive everywhere all the time. Inflation, it's getting expensive.
Yeah.
Living here, obviously the cost of living is very reasonable.
Mm.
So I like that. Can you think of anything else that you didn't like about Western New York or the United States in general?
Well, it's too cold for me.
It's too cold. That's
That's for
another
sure.
big one. Yeah, it's very cold. And,
And I can here I can like go anywhere without like driving. There I have to drive or take over,
Right.
And some of my friends like live far, so it's like
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas here in the Philippines, I mean, everything is pretty nearby,
Yes.
especially in Manila. The only thing you have to deal with is the traffic. But
Yes.
Traffic is, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you've been in New York, so it's not, too horrendous for you, is it?
Not where I live. Western New York's not bad at all.
Right.
In New York City is bad.
New York City.
But
Yeah. It's really bad.
here, I didn't. So when I first looked up, because I planned on having to commute to Quezon City often, but I wanted to stay in this area. I'm sure you're going to ask about that later. When I looked it up online, it was like, I don't know where I had to go is like 13, 14 miles away.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, no big deal. 13, 14,
close.
that's nothing.
yeah.
But that's actually an hour and a half.
Wow.
An hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of shocking about
Yeah,
the
for sure.
traffic. Yeah.
The traffic, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Now, actually, going back to what we were just talking about. So now that you're in the Philippines, where do you guys live?
In McKinley.
In McKinley. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about like the location of McKinley and why you chose McKinley over
Yeah.
BGC? Because it is nearby.
Yep. Yeah. I can see BGC from where I live.
Mm-hmm.
So I had originally wanted to, when I came here, I anticipated actually living in BGC. However, McKinley, I just found a place that was larger,
Right.
because there's 5 of us that live together. So a larger place for a cheaper price or similar price. And I'm kind of not enthusiastic about heights. And so I didn't really like living up high in a high rise. And I found a place over in McKinley that was on a lower floor.
I see.
Especially makes me nervous with the kids and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
being up high up.
Yeah.
So.
I can imagine, most places here in BGC, you don't have much of an option to go for a lower unit. Those are not very, very much so available. But yeah, in McKinley, I think what's a very big appeal about it is also it's slightly a bit cheaper than BGC because it's less congested there and it's more residential.
More residential,
Yes,
it's a little
it
bit
is.
more relaxed.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And it's so close to BGC, I can just come here anytime.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right, exactly. And let's actually switch gears into your cost of living here in the Philippines. Can you dive into what your expenses are like, your monthly expenses are like, and how that compares to living in back in Western New York?
So my rent is 65,000 pesos a month, which is much less than it was in Western New York.
Right. It's around like $1,300 a month?
Not even. No, with exchange rates like 56.7.
Oh, yeah,
or
that's
something.
right.
I
So
think
it's
today was
lower.
actually 56.8 something.
Wow.
So it was even lower than that. It's like,
It's like 1,100, I guess.
yeah, like 1150,
1100.
maybe
Yeah.
something around
Wow.
there. So yeah, rent's definitely a lot better.
Yes.
Especially if you're living in a major city. Like that, there's no way you could live off of that in like
Absolutely.
New York City or
Right.
LA or Chicago. No way, nothing.
No,
nothing
not
like
even.
that.
Yeah, and this is a 3-bedroom unit, right?
Yeah, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms.
Okay.
Yes.
And other expenses, of course, my school for the kids, electricity, which is probably my highest bill, is electricity. You know, cell phones, internet,
How much would your electricity be?
around $200 a month. Something around like 10,000 pesos a month.
Oh yeah, what do you mean? If you're in the Philippines, you got to keep the AC
I
running.
have the AC on.
Yes,
a
all
lot.
day.
All day.
A lot,
Nice.
yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's me, Famela, my sister-in-law, my daughter, my stepdaughter.
Right.
And like my sister-in-law
Always
and my
cold.
stepdaughter, they complain about the air conditioning. It's too much. It's too cold
too
for them.
cold.
Too cold
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, but you know, if you keep on complaining about it, just tell them, how about we go to Buffalo, New York?
Oh God.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I remember like maybe one trip we came here and we're with my mother-in-law and my daughter. It was like maybe it dropped down to 80 degrees or something. And my mother-in-law is like bundling up my daughter like and I'm like, no, she like lives in the snow.
Yes.
Like this weather is
Yes.
not going to hurt her at all.
Right.
80 degrees.
Right, yeah, absolutely. But when you live here for so long, you just get so used to it. So back to your expenses. You talked about your electricity, your phone. How about your food? What would that be like for a family of 5?
So I don't know exactly. You probably know better than I do. We eat out a lot. And when we do go grocery shopping, we actually live not too far away from a wet market. So we get our meat, fish, vegetables, and fruits all from the wet market, which is unbelievably reasonable.
Yeah. Way cheaper than the marketplace or
Yeah, for sure.
Or
Landers.
Landers, or what's the other one? The Landmark.
Landmark.
Those places are totally reasonable, actually, compared to like how much you pay in the United States. But the market near us is
Even more affordable.
even way more affordable
sure.
than
Yes.
that. So pretty much shop and fresh. They have really fresh stuff there, especially seafood and vegetables and fruits. And so we get that stuff there, and then for anything that we can't get there, you know, like paper towels, toilet paper, dish soap, all that kind of stuff, we get at Landers or
Nice.
the Landmark.
Yeah. Can you give like a rough estimation of like how much all
Like-
your grocery bill would cost by the end of the month?
I don't know exactly. I can tell you exactly how much we spend total with everything.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
everything.
monthly expense.
It's we spend probably $4,500.
$4,500.
Yeah, but you gotta figure that's 5 of us,
Yeah, absolutely.
and you know,
with 2 students.
with 2 students living in a major city,
Right.
you know, with a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom condo. So,
Yeah, but you compare that to living in Buffalo, New York for a family of 5, that'd
No.
be, you know, there's no way you can really live on $4,500 per month.
not even close.
No.
Yeah.
Not even
Yes, and also, yeah, like you said, tuition as well.
tuition as well.
Yes.
So I see like, because I watch your show, and I see other people are in probably lower ranges, but most of them are like single, like
Exactly.
living alone, right?
Exactly.
So-
Like for them, I always talk to them, like they'd say, on average, an expat can live here on $1,500 a month to $2,000 a month, and that's if you're living quite minimally as a single person. But even as like a family of 5 of you guys, you can live on $4,500 per month, and you know, in the U.S., that doesn't get you very much.
No.
No, and in fact also, because we've been here for such a short amount of time, we don't really. I'm sure we could spend
Overboard.
less money than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just because we didn't
Yes.
know where to
We
go
didn't
and what
know
to
where
do
to
and
go,
things like
yeah.
that.
Right.
And
For
so,
sure.
you know, the longer we live here, I'm sure that price will probably drop.
Right. And so, how would those expenses, like $4,500 here, compare to like your monthly expenses back in Buffalo,
What do you mean, like?
living in New York or in Virginia? How much were your expenses back over in the States?
Okay,
Oh, just the 3 of us.
so, yeah, with just the 3 of us, somewhere around 8,000. No, 8,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere around
$8,000.
$8,000 a month
Yeah, that sounds about right. And that's for less people.
Yes.
for less
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
8,000 per month. Wow, that's insane. And that's in Buffalo, right?
Yep.
Buffalo.
Near Buffalo. It's Orchard Park is the name of the suburb.
And so now let's talk a little bit about like the differences of your life versus, you know, living in the US versus in the Philippines. What would you say are like the major differences that you notice living here?
It's slower paced, which I like actually.
Right.
And I actually have high blood pressure. And I think it actually is like resolving. Yeah, I swear.
You're getting better.
Yeah.
Like just the other day, I took my blood pressure and I was shocked at like how low it was. I was like, wow. And
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know, either the weather or just a slower pace of life.
For sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And you also have to get used to some kind of strange things that happen. Like, I actually have more patience than she does. She got a little bit too used to, like, in the United States, you know, everything's kind of like happening fast and on time.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Like here, like she had an issue with Globe. We kind of had to go there a few days in a row to straighten it out. And she was like pretty mad, or not mad,
No.
but displeased
Yeah.
about it. Or I was just kind of like, which is ironic because I'm the
like
foreigner.
always
I'm the actual
comparing.
foreigner.
Right.
It's like it's a little bit
So
different here. Yeah.
it seems like you living here in the Philippines has kind of mellowed you out, right? Because everything is a lot more slower paced. I mean, especially if you compare it to, I don't know how it is in Buffalo, but of course in New York, it's very fast paced over there.
So nothing compared to New York City, but
Nothing, yeah.
Definitely much faster than here. You know,
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
everything's. You know,
Absolutely.
alarm clock goes off in the morning and you're at it.
Absolutely,
You know?
yeah, absolutely. And you talked about like the divisiveness in the U.S. a little bit. Was that one of the reasons why you were okay with moving to the Philippines?
It was something that it was just an aspect of life that I didn't like. It's not a thing here at all.
Right.
Like, you could pretty much say anything you want here, and no one's gonna hate me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be careful there because, you know, you just don't
Yes.
talk about like the politics here in the
Politics.
Philippines.
I don't.
Yeah,
In fact, that's because I've lived in so many places throughout my life
right.
and visited so many places throughout my life. Like, one of my number one policies, one is I don't deal with any politics in any country, and definitely not here. That includes here. And I don't break any laws ever.
Yeah.
Those are my two.
Especially as a foreigner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And what other reasons would you say like you wanted to leave the U.S.?
Well, I mean, the number one major reason was to be with family.
Okay.
And I'm still going to go back to the U.S. during at least probably a month out of every summer.
I see.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other reasons why? I mean, I just like the Philippines. I always have, ever since the first time I've been here. The first time I was in the Philippines was in 2006.
2006.
The very first time, while I was in the military. So I had lived in like Eastern Asia and Southern Europe and Northeastern United States. And in those places, like kind of, like the weather's not too different and the trees and everything is kind of similar.
Right.
Where the first time I came to the Philippines, it was like being on another planet. I had never been to a tropical place before. So I was seeing, tons of coconut trees and banana trees and, water that you could see like right to the bottom, And I don't like normally swimming in the ocean because I don't like swimming when I can't see what's around me.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I could see everything that's around me. It makes me feel so much more comfortable in the water. So that part of the Philippines is something I kind of like fell in love with when I was young, when I was like 26.
Yeah.
When it was time for us to come back here, I thought about that,
Yeah.
get to experience that again.
Just you were just naturally drawn to the country.
I don't know. Just the first time I was here, I just really did like it. It was just a really cool place.
Nice.
And I think mostly because I used to be, at least, a little bit more adventurous. And it was just so far different from anything that I've ever experienced prior to that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, and in your eyes, it's very cool, but obviously, in a Western perspective, I think the Philippines gets a bad rap of what it is. And I think a lot of people see this as just poverty, and trash everywhere. And that makes me curious, what was your family's reaction to you moving to the Philippines?
They weren't happy about it, but not because of the Philippines itself. It's just because they didn't want us to leave. Because I have brothers and sisters, and I have nieces and nephews and everything, and then so my daughter has cousins in New York as well as here. So it was just kind of, it wasn't that they didn't want me to come here because of the Philippines itself. It's just they didn't want me to come here because they didn't want to not see us as often.
I see. And so what was it like for you meeting Kevin's family there in the U.S., Pamela?
Well, first I was like kind of shy. First, the communication,
Yes.
the yeah,
Language barrier.
the language barrier. Like at first, I kind of like don't want to talk at all because like I'm scared to like say something that not like
Yeah.
But for a long time, like I've been like comfortable with them. Like they're very nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So you guys all got along.
Yes,
well.
yes,
That's good.
yes.
That's good. Do you think
Yes.
your family will ever come over here to the Philippines and visit?
Yeah,
Hopefully.
I'm hoping
That
they all will, but I think my
Yeah.
dad probably will.
yeah, that really
sure,
like
yeah.
searching, like watching also YouTube about Philippines.
He's also like History Channel guy, or
I see.
back when History Channel
Yes.
used to actually have like shows about history.
Right.
Yeah, so he's always was mindful of the Philippines and like the United States involvement in
Yeah.
the Philippines, like in World War II, and like
Oh, I see.
how we used to have the bases here in
In Fort.
Pampanga and
Oh, okay.
Zambales,
Yeah.
and actually here because
Here,
this
yeah.
was
Fort
Fort
Bonifacio.
McKinley.
Yeah.
Oh, Fort McKinley.
It was
yeah.
Fort McKinley. Then after World War II, in like 1946, Fort McKinley was turned over to, or the Philippines had its independence. And then I think 3 years after that, like 1949, Fort McKinley was turned over to the Filipino Army
Yeah.
and became Fort Bonifacio,
Right.
which is where we are now.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I think that's like one reason why you look around BGC and McKinley and it's just like living in the US, right? Even at the roots of this city, the land even, it was even owned by the US at a point.
At a point, yeah.
I get a lot of people that talk to me, like family in back in the States, and they're like, Evan, why would you move to the Philippines? It's a third world country and all of that. But I FaceTime them and I'm walking around BGC and they're like, oh, you're not in the Philippines anymore? You're back in the US? I'm like, no, I'm still in BGC. Like, BGC? I'm like, yeah, the Philippines. And they're shocked by it because it really does feel like the States.
You know, it's kind of funny. So much so, sometimes I walk around here and I feel more like I'm in Singapore than I am
Exactly. In the Philippines.
in the Philippines. But our daughter, she pretty much, when we come to the Philippines, would stay out in the province. So sometimes when she'll ask us, like, she's like, when are we going to the Philippines? Well, when we live here. I'm trying to explain to her, like,
She's
this
very
is the
Manila.
Philippines.
And your daughter's young, right?
She's 6. She just turned 6.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so she, doesn't even
Right.
fully know where she
Yeah.
is because of
Because of how
Yes.
different it is from
Right.
out
The province.
down in Bicol region.
Yeah, and that's like usually a major concern with expats moving here is like, am I gonna be too far outside of my comfort zone when I move to the Philippines? But like living in BGC and making it your home base or McKinley, it really just, you get all the conveniences of living in the West,
Yeah.
for sure.
I'm also hoping my 2 oldest kids who go to school in Virginia, they're in college in Virginia. I'm hoping they're going to come visit as well.
And so I'm very curious, like was moving here to the Philippines and before you actually knew a lot about this area of McKinley and BGC, was it a concern in regards to safety for you and your children?
So before that was like, that's the number one took into consideration was safety, which is the reason why I live in this area. Number one, I wanted to make sure everyone was safe. And I feel like I'm very safe here in Taguig, especially in BGC and in McKinley. Also, I needed to be near hospitals.
Yes.
So not too far away from Makati Medical Center and St. Luke's here in BGC. And I'm not that far away from the VA. And they take my health insurance. So they all go to St. Luke's or Makati Medical Center and I go to the VA.
In regards to safety, how would you compare living in BGC and in McKinley compared to Buffalo, New York?
I feel like I could walk on the street at nighttime and here and feel like I'm in any kind of danger.
Wow.
That's not the same in Buffalo.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend walking around Buffalo or any like densely populated metropolitan area in the United States at nighttime. I don't want to say too many bad things about the United States.
But yeah, that's your experience, right?
Yeah.
And I could say the same thing for me. Like, even living in the suburbs of Illinois, like I don't walk around the streets or especially the city at night. But here in BGC, like you could be out at any time. of the
Anytime.
day.
In fact, right outside of my place, I see people. Sometimes I'll just go out, like especially like I'll just go outside sometimes late, very late, and there's still people all the time out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like young people, like 19, 20 years old, they all seem perfectly comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
Where they are, walking where they are, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I actually get a lot of comments on the channel like, Evan, you know, you're living in BGC, it's such a bubble there, and like you're not even experiencing the Philippines. But my only thing is like the whole reason why I live in the Philippines is because there is a BGC, and that kind of sounds like very, I guess, privileged and entitled to say. But for me personally, my taste, I'm a city person, right? And if I were to live out in the province, it wouldn't 24/7. I wouldn't enjoy life as much as like living in BGC, having stable Wi-Fi, not having brownouts all the time.
Right.
And so it's nice to live in a very safe place. And then when you want, perhaps on a free weekend, then you can go out to the province and enjoy what the Philippines has to offer.
Yeah.
And speaking of, have you been to any other parts of the Philippines other than Masbate?
We went to Zambales before, Pampanga, Tarlac, Manila, but mostly Masbate. We almost always went to Masbate because that's where our family was.
Okay.
Which I love. I absolutely love going down there. It's beautiful. And whenever we go down there, we usually have a lechon party.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's my favorite. That's like my favorite Filipino experience is
Yeah.
having those
Having lechon.
lechon baboy parties.
So you can't go wrong with the lechon here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that I always talk about on the channel is the differences of dating in the US versus the Philippines. How was that process for you two getting together here? Was it any different than in the US?
I don't know.
Culture-wise?
I haven't dated in a long time. 10 years, something like that. Longer than that, 11 years. I don't know. From my understanding, everything's online now. People go online and they
Yes.
find someone online. That's how it's.
I see.
Whereas even 11 years ago, people were still meeting at places outside of dating websites and things like that.
But for you, you found each other very organically, just
Yes.
through a mutual and a
Yeah.
party, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how did your family accept Kevin? How was that process?
Well,
like, seeing
he's a very nice guy. My family cooks something, like he likes it. Like it's not so like what do you call it, arte.
or picky?
So my family likes him because of that. Like it's not so picky about food and everything. The province,
Right.
because like he's a foreigner. He doesn't like used to this thing or that thing, you know. But he's like very like into it. So my family like that's a lot.
I see.
Yeah, like especially in the province.
Yeah, that could be one of the reasons why they love Kevin so much, because
Yes.
he's so open to
Yes.
trying the food and experiencing
Yeah,
the culture here.
he's not afraid to try everything.
Yeah. Was there a language barrier between Kevin and the family?
Yes.
How did you guys go about that?
So
Well, I just translate it like you ask something.
Nice.
right now, I have a subscription to
Yes. Rosetta.
Rosetta Stone.
Oh.
So it's not that much. It comes out, like renews every 3 months automatically. And it comes out to be like $11 a month. And then I study for 30 minutes a day, Tagalog class.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Yeah. There you go.
hopefully, and then at nighttime, I try to watch Filipino television
Filipino shows,
so I can listen
movies.
to everything.
Yeah, even for me as like being full Filipino, I was raised in the US, so I didn't speak any Tagalog. But when I first moved here, I would just learn from watching the teleseries here all the time. And that's how I basically got the gist of the language and understanding it. And then in no time, you'll be able to speak full Tagalog to Pamela's parents.
yeah.
He's doing better.
Yeah? That's good, that's good. And when you first came here to the Philippines, what year was this?
The very first time was
Very first.
2006.
2006. What were your culture shocks and initial impressions of the country?
Culture shocks initially was the transportation was interesting because it was like on trikes. Like I'd never seen or even heard of anything like that before. It's pretty much at that time everything was in cash. You rarely used a credit card for anything, and just like how the prices of things were. It
really?
was shocking to me, like how reasonably priced they were compared to pretty much every other country I was at before that.
For
You know,
sure.
Tokyo, Japan in general is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And United States and places like that. Really, another thing that like the big culture shock was just the environment. Just the banana trees and the coconut trees and the humidity and people like out in the province like wanting to take their picture with me. I was like,
You're the celebrity, you're the man
I
out
was
there.
like, why would you want to take your picture with me? Little kids following me.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, wow.
Little kids following me around places,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder, what's your experience like being here as a foreigner?
In BGC,
Yeah, in BGC.
I'm just like another person walking
No
down the
different,
street.
but in the province,
the
it's
province,
It's different.
hey
Yeah.
Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hey Joe, they say
Yeah,
that.
they
Hey,
say
Joe.
hey
You
Joe.
heard that a
Yeah.
lot in the province.
So, but you're treated very well in the province, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, you stand out there a lot.
I've never been mistreated in the Philippines ever.
Wow, that's amazing.
You know, maybe some people tried to raise the prices on some things,
That's it. Yeah, but
Foreign thoughts.
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
always like I've done enough traveling on my own to know to expect that,
right.
so it didn't upset me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know even when they raise the prices, like for me when I first moved here and I didn't speak Tagalog at the wet market or the Palenque, for example,
Yeah.
they would raise the price on me. Probably, I wouldn't know, but I didn't really even notice because the price raise is not
It's not enough to
Yeah.
even bother
Yes.
you.
not enough to bother you. And sometimes I came in with like I would come in with the mentality like, oh, this is what 400 pesos here, that's about $8. Oh, in the US that'd be like $16. That's a
Yes.
steal.
But you
here-
got to get that out of your mind.
and
though.
I got that out of my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took that out of my mind because I know like that eventually adds up. And
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
no, yeah. So I try to keep it relative to the prices here.
Yes.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Pretty much just what you were gonna say. Like we would do the same thing. We would look at a price and do the math and figure out how much it would be in dollars, and then be like, wow, it's such a great price.
For sure.
But relative
Always think.
to
country.
to the country, it's not.
Yes.
We were paying much more than.
When you first came here, were there any like struggles you had adjusting to the Philippines?
Of course, jet lag for the first week,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a big time zone difference. I miss unlimited data. Talked about it a bit earlier.
Yeah.
And, my phone carrier.
Yeah, because here you have to load it almost every week. You have to buy load, and yeah, it's a very different than the U.S.
It's weird how some things are really cheap and other things are expensive, and you can't figure out why. Like the
Yeah.
electricity is not cheap, but many other things are.
Yeah.
Are very cheap. Some strange things like the lights in my bathroom are too high that my daughter can't turn them on. So every time she needs to go to the bathroom, she has to call me to come and turn the lights on for her.
Oh, really?
And it's like weird things like that. Like
Yeah.
it makes me wonder, like whoever built this, like why did they not? Did they think kids didn't have to go to the bathroom? Or-
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I wasn't bothered by much.
Okay.
It was just some things I couldn't figure out, like in the mall near me. Like all the bathrooms are free except for one. It's 10 pesos,
It's the same.
and it's the same. It's not like special or
It's the same.
different in any way. I'm not upset about it. It's just I can't understand why.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I noticed too about living in the Philippines is that there's like some certain like incongruencies where like you just don't logically understand why certain things are done. For example, like I remember during the pandemic, when you go to High Street, they have like two different parts. They have two walkways, right? And usually you can enter and exit from whatever walkway. But during that pandemic, they made it a policy where you only can enter on one side and you can only exit on one side. And for example, if you're at a certain establishment that's next to the entrance, but you exit at the entrance, the guard would make me like go all the way around and go to the exit. But for me, it would just be more convenient to exit where it's closest for me to exit. And so like I think when I give advice to a lot of foreigners that are moving here, there's certain things that you're not going to understand. For example, why not use both cashiers at the mini stop or something? But you just have to be patient because
Yeah.
Yes.
even if you were to ask and say, hey, why can't you guys use both cashiers? I'll ask my manager, and then at that point, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You just make it more.
I've had some
Exactly. Yeah.
experiences where like I was looking for a power adapter, and I went inside of an Ace hardware store, and I asked, there are two people that work there, and I asked them for this power adapter, and they're like, we don't have it. And it just so happens, like out of my peripheral vision, I could see it like kind of like we're almost right behind them, and I was like, oh no, it's right here. And I don't know if they like. I was speaking English, so maybe they just wanted me to go away.
Right.
Or, so they told me,
understand you.
or maybe they just didn't understand it, or
Yeah.
something like that. One time, even here in BGC, we're looking for kids' sunglasses
Oh, yeah,
my
that's right.
for my youngest daughter, and
You don't
I
see it.
asked for the sunglasses, and she's like, "Oh, let me go talk to my manager." The manager comes out, says, "No, we don't have it." And then right behind them was or sunglasses or kids' sunglasses. We didn't actually find it. One of the other workers found it. It was like, "No, here it is," but it probably embarrassed the manager.
I noticed that too whenever I go to look for a certain item in the stores here. If I ask in English, I immediately get like, "Oh, out of stock, sir, out of stock, book." But
I think it's just easier to
because it's easier just to like say no than speak
yes.
English, of course. So I speak Tagalog now, but I would often find myself like very skeptical. I'm thinking I don't feel like it's out of stock, so I actually go out and I look for it, and when I find it, I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I don't ask anymore.
You don't ask anymore.
No,
you
I
search
just
for
go
it.
and search it
Go
for
look
myself.
for it.
Yeah. Okay. So now, as we close, what's your plans from here on out? Are you planning on splitting time between the U.S. and the Philippines, or?
So this is where as of now, we're living. This is where we live now.
All right. Home base.
This is home base for forever. And then at least a month out of the year, probably during the summertime, I'll go back to the United States to visit family and friends.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure having you on, Kevin and Pamela.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank
Of course,
you.
of course. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching this first podcast episode. We're going to have many more to come in the future with all different types of guests, maybe even celebrities in the Philippines. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. God bless.